Hello, everybody. Welcome to another film flashback. This is Matthew, as usual, and Nick, and joined by, you may have seen him on a previous film flashback last year, this is Joe Johnson.
Hey,
we're very excited. Today we're decided to flash back to a movie from 1990. That is the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Power Team.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
What the heck was that?
Looked like sort of a big turtle in a trench coat.
All right. Dudes, I'm so stoked to talk about this movie. I remember exactly when I first saw this film. I was a boy. My older brother, Al, had birthday, and he got this on VHS tape. And he's 6 years older than me. So we watched this movie, and I had the best time ever, and apparently started punching and kicking everything in the house because I wanted to rewatch it, and it was like my big brother just pretended like it didn't exist. Like, I don't know what movie you're talking about. And I didn't find out till years later. It's because Mom told him, don't show that movie to your little brother. He just starts punching and kicking everything. And I never thought I'd be watching it while I had a beer. So I'm really stoked.
You know what? So Joe and I have you by a couple years. So first of all, major Ninja Turtles guy. Goes without saying. As soon as that cartoon show started, man, I was in. And the toys, you name it, I had it. I remember my first experience of the movie, and I don't think I'm sure they don't let you do this now, but I remember the theater we went to was so packed that me and my brother and my dad sat in the aisle. Or he might have had a chair, and then me and my brother, or at least me, I was on the stairs. Yeah, like sitting on the staircase at the movie theater to watch this thing. The first time we saw it in the theater.
That's important to remember perhaps because from this point in time, you may not remember how it used to be, but it was like the show. First, the characters were created as a comic book, and then they were a hugely popular TV show. Then this movie gets made on the back of that popularity, and which is important to remember because this movie comes with the hype around it, where everybody kind of already knows the characters, and that's part of how the details of this movie work out. You have to satisfy fans. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, Joe, what was your first memory of this movie?
Honestly, I remember being, we were in third or fourth grade when this came out. Maybe even younger. Maybe second grade. Maybe even let's go with
We were roughly 6 or 7.
Okay, yeah. So, unless you got held back, you were... It was one of those movies where I remember being in the movie theater, and as soon as Raphael said, damn, every single kid in the audience was like, ooh, said a bad word.
I'm like when he got walked out on the spot.
Because it's not a cartoon anymore. They come out of the cartoon world, and now they're in the real world. And he says that before you even reveal what they look like, you know? Right. So I thought that the opening of the movie is sort of iconic. As you can probably tell, viewers, we're going to be praising a lot of what we like about this movie. Yeah. But so the opening of the movie, it's set in New York, and they do that classic sort of montage of the New York skyline. You see the thing. Every time we watch one of these movies, the last one too, you see the towers and all that stuff, and you get the April O'Neil character report going on, and it's a great sort of cut for the montage because there's people watching her on TV here and here and here while people are getting stuff stolen all around New York. You've got the pickpockets. They introduce Danny. There are two moments that I love the most are when they show the one take of the guy pulling the box out of the truck full of boxes, and the camera follows him while he gets a signature, and then when it goes back, the boxes are just all gone, impossibly fast. And the woman who was watching on TV, and she turns away for a second, and when she comes back, the TV has just been lifted off.
The crappy little TV. They're like the most petty thieves of all time.
young people won't understand. Like, no, you needed to get your TV worked like an old radio. It was actually an analog signal in the air. So she's watching out on her fire escape.
Yeah.
And it's just all of that goes directly into the first moment that the turtles show up, but you don't see them, which is when April runs into a couple of these thieves out the back, and they try to mug her, and then they smash the light, and in the dark we get the sound design fight. Lights come back on when the cops show up, and that's our introduction to the turtles. What you're talking about, Joe. Raphael trying to sneak away. He's got the lid of the sewer grate, but he's dropped one of his weapons. He's dropped his sai, and you just hear him go, "Damn!" And even as a kid, you were like, "They can curse in this one."
Right.
But how much did that help? Like, that opening scene is awesome when April's getting mugged by foot soldiers, or it's really the Foot Clan, I think, that's mugging her. But we don't really we don't see anything. We know these guys get their butts kicked, and April's fine. But the first thing we see is like Raph's eyes in the sewer because he left his sai out, and like it's very powerful because as a kid you're like, "Oh my god, Ninja Turtles are coming up!" And you go to this movie and there's a fight, but you don't even see him. It's like the Jaws effect, but just like kids. So like you're just waiting and waiting and waiting to see these things, and so just building the anticipation. Great opening scene.
It's the perfect way to do it, to just make you wait just a little bit longer.
I love the fact that in the opening scene where dudes are like stealing wallets, you got my man holding the wallet behind him as this fully armored hand with like chainmail and like everything just comes out and takes the wallet. I'm like, ain't nobody noticing that dude walking around in mid-daylight?
It's New York, it just
it's just like in Times Square or something, just doing and like, how are these kids ninjas already? Like, I'm jealous. I wasn't that sneaky as a kid.
Good. Well, they're not that good because Danny gets caught real fast. He gets arrested, remember?
Well,
so it's like,
I got some things to say about Danny.
Sure.
It might be one of the most.
I love. What?
Might be one of the character Danny. All right, so Danny is the kid in the movie that he's really just a plot vehicle to get us from point A to point B. Like, he's the worst kid. I actually kind of sympathize with Danny's dad in this movie. I think he's kind of just a shithead.
Well,
he's falling with the rough crowd. He doesn't have it that bad, but like his dad's mean because the kid sucks. And so Danny, very hateable, but he gets us from April to the tie-in to later he becomes important. But he's a hateable character, in my opinion.
Well, no, he's hateable. I mean, in the sense that he's flawed and he's doing things he shouldn't do. But he comes around real fast once those things have consequences for people that he can see in front of him. Like he does come around. I think he's there as a vehicle for the fact that the movie is directed at people Danny's age and younger, where he's like a bad kid who's acting out and then learns the error of his ways and that kind of thing and learns the value of family and all the rest of that. So it's like it's got this after-school special element to it. But it seems like I thought that character's there because the movie's made knowing that young boys who want to go around punching stuff, who are going to look at that layer and say, that's really cool, they're supposed to identify with Danny in the sense that they learn,
Right.
I actually relate to Danny. He's not a villain in this. He's just a product of his own environment, and everything around him was so cool. You walk into the Foot Soldier, then you expect it to be like mice and rats and like, oh man, this rigorous training. Man, it's like video games and like
it's like Joe's apartment.
All this stuff going on. I'm like, of course all these kids are here. I would have been there. I'd have been in every night.
It does look like ridiculous.
That was awesome.
Cool. And that's kind of the idea.
I don't have to go home. I can go hang out with the Foot Clan and play video games. Let's go. I'm definitely joining this gang.
You get free stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, where'd you get that Walkman? And it was
ninja training. I get to steal TVs. What does Shredder want with all this stuff? Don't matter. I'm part of the Foot Clan now. I'm a ninja. I'm playing video games every day of my life. Best life ever.
Yeah, plenty of young men who should otherwise have grown up decent didn't, because they were pulled in and attracted by nasty characters, you know. But at least Danny ends up in the end learning a lesson. So after we see April in her iconic yellow coat. That yellow trench coat that's from the show, so they have to put it on her at least once in the very beginning. She gets her mugging that she gets saved by the turtles.
Is it a
go down into
in the show? I thought it was a jumpsuit in the show.
Oh, she's got a coat. It's a coat.
I was very specific about that because I've had the action figure and she had the jumpsuit on.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe a different one that I'm thinking.
I don't know. Look, those are my two crushes back in the day. It was April O'Neil and the Pink Power Ranger. That was it.
Kimberly.
And I realized after watching this movie that crush was not accurate because she is not an attractive woman.
Oh, that's not fair.
I don't. Yeah, I'm definitely more Pink Ranger than April O'Neil.
Yes.
Let me bring up something that I think is important. I have thoughts about April O'Neil, but I think we can deduce why. All right. So in 1990, this was the highest-grossing independent film of all time. Right. The budget was $13.5 million. It made. Let me see if I wrote it down. Box office $66 million opening, but it ended up making. Quadrupling worldwide the budget, and just this movie made an absolute killing. They had Secret of the Ooze out the following year in '91, and so this is, for lack of a better, it's a quasi low budget movie. And I was trying to figure out, like, we have, Clay brought it up early. We had the cartoon show, we had the comic, they already had toys out, but every major studio passed on this movie. Do you know why? Does it sound like another franchise that came out with a movie 3 years prior that had toys and a cartoon? So Masters of the Universe came out 3 years prior to this movie. And
flashback to another film, Flashback.
Total flop, which also we did a film Flashback for. Total flop. And so no major studio wanted to touch this movie. And so I'm looking at this going like, yeah, I get this. They definitely, of the $13.5 million, my guess is that they spent a ton of money on the special effects. It was Jim Henson Studios that did it. The last movie Jim Henson, feature film Jim Henson was associated with before he passed away. But when I'm looking at the actors, so back to April O'Neil, I'm looking at it going like, well, I mean, this was in theaters, it was a pretty big movie. Like, is there not a better April O'Neil that they could have got? And so I have a list here. I'll name some names. Marissa Tomei, Sandra Bullock, Nicole Kidman, Winona Ryder, Brooke Shields, all considered for the role. So my guess is that they said, who we really want for April O'Neil? All these people. And they go, great. You're getting this girl who has done like a couple TV shows that you're going to, get for very cheap, because we do not have.
It's not like she didn't do a good job.
No, she did a great job.
But relatively no-name actors in this movie.
Well, if I was making this movie, I would say, dude, what's the point in spending a lot of money on big name actors? We already have the stars. It's the Turtles.
Yeah.
So we don't. If we don't have to, let's just go get good actors. I like that you mentioned it was about Jim Henson Studios, because what ends up happening is early in the 80s, there's a ridiculous idea that a couple of comic book creators come up with, literally trying to make each other laugh one day, just drawing turtles with, headbands around their eyes. And then they were like, well, why don't we just make a comic out of it? That becomes a strange success. So they have the cartoon becomes a strange success. So when I understand that it was already a success, but it's hard to remember. This is about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's the actual concept. So someone's trying to get you to fund the movie. I would say,
bitch, I'm in.
You can just imagine. You just imagine people going like,
"Give me a purple hairband. I'm ready."
Popular cartoon, but seriously, out of all the things, and if it wasn't for, I think, what the Jim Henson Studio managed to achieve, then this movie wouldn't work at all. It's only because those things look really
the costumes are fantastic. Splinter looks like they borrowed him from the Dark Crystal. Like there could be a crossover from the Dark Crystal movies.
Yeah, so they have the way that they have a mask, and the mask has all these servos in it. The whole head is like a big old mask, and it's got all of these electronics in it that are being operated by a guy off camera. And he's talking and he's moving it, and then there's the actor inside isn't talking at all. The actor inside has to just kind of like, move and gesture as if they're the one saying all this stuff, but the mouth is being flapped by somebody who's standing next to the director and the camera guy, and it works. There's enough articulation, and even the creators are like, we understand that the people watching aren't going to think that they're real. We just want them to be lifelike enough that you can get into the fantasy. And frankly, you still can 30 years later. Yeah,
I agree 100%. Like, I think the animatronics in this movie hold up as much as, I'm gonna go say it, as much as Alien in 1979. Yeah. Like, I'm still scared of Alien. I still think these turtles are better than any CGI they could ever put out.
Well, it's more fun because you can tell that those stunts, when they're punching the turtles, that they're hitting a thing. Mm-hmm. You can tell, like, with the rain and the way that the light bounces off the costume. It's like, you can see that it's really there, and it makes the performances of the other actors better, because when she's trying to be freaked out, that first moment, April is saved by Raphael in the subway, and she wakes up, and the first thing she sees is Splinter, this giant talking rat. Right. And then the turtles, her performance is helped by the fact that the actress had these actual things to look at, staring at her.
Right, not a green screen, like, oh, I have to pretend.
I don't know that any of the guys in the turtle suits spoke English, but yeah, for the most part, you're right. It's again, we get into this a lot. Obviously, film Flashback, we're usually watching older movies, and even the past few weeks, we watched Tremors and all these things. Like, CGI does not last that long, but if it's practical effects, like if I had a kid, which I don't, but like I'm old enough where I should have probably had multiple kids, like I would show them this movie, and I think a kid would be like, "Oh, that's cool," right. Like that's. But if it was CGI from the same time, it would look absolutely terrible.
Well, it's just funny that the old costume doesn't bother us, but old CGI does bother us. That's just strange. I'm not like anti-computer graphics. There's so many incredible but it's just strange. Like you were saying that it doesn't hold up. Like if you watch CGI from 10 years ago, it looks like it. Yeah. But if you watch a costume from 30 years ago, you're like, I know it's a costume, but I don't care.
It's like when Neo fighting the Matrix. It's like when he's doing the little spinning thing, you're like, oh, that looks whack. I love this movie.
Yeah.
That looks whack.
I would rather that they had 45 extras that were all supposed to look like Agent Smith,
Go out and cast 45 other dudes and do the Neo pole kick thing, and like I'm with it.
I was reading a thing too, and I'm sure it goes back to, again, it's not like a low budget, but it's an independent film, so I'm sure they cut corners, and they spent a ton, I'm sure, on props. I know they shot in a studio in Wilmington, exteriors were in New York and stuff. But so a lot of the stunt guys got hurt in this. And so a lot of, if you're a foot soldier in one scene, you might be one of the Ninja Turtles in another scene. You might be an extra in another scene. They just kept like recycling all their guys. And because the stunt guys kept getting hurt. And they're like, all right, great. Now you're Michelangelo. It's like, okay, now you're this other foot soldier.
Has a ton of stunts. In fact, I believe... I'm pretty sure Jim Henson was like, I don't really like how violent this movie is. I didn't know it was going to be that violent.
He didn't like it after it came out, evidently.
But yeah, this movie is intense, but it's like when it comes to the stunt work, but it should be. That's kind of the idea. It's kind of the point. It's really commendable how many themes and real story and character building they bothered to put in this movie, because they didn't have to. People were going to pay the ticket price and just to watch the turtles fight. But they really tried to make this script come to life.
Yeah,
they did.
I have here in my notes as well, Clay, to that point. I know they shot a lot more. There's a lot more scene shot that got cut for time, which this movie's about an hour and a half. And given the target audience, like that's just long enough. You really don't want to make this movie longer than that. But watching it now, it's actually... I would totally watch a director's cut of this with that stuff put back in, assuming it's like edited and cleaned up, because there's a lot of character development on like the farm scene that I was reading with like Leonardo is much more prominent. I guess the cartoon, you get the advantage of watching many episodes, but he's much more prominent as like a leader. Like none of them stand out. I think if anyone stands out in this movie as a Turtles, it's Raphael. That was the one for me, at least going in, where like I was never a big Raphael guy. Maybe because like if you're fighting with your friends with toy weapons, you don't want size. You want nunchucks with a sword or even a bow.
Question: why does Raphael talk like LL Cool J?
Wait, he wasn't? That wasn't the actor in the costume?
Nope. And the guy doing the voice doesn't look like LL Cool J.
Inspired by?
Maybe.
Cricket! Cricket!
I'm bad.
You gotta know what a trumpet is to know about cricket.
Cricket.
This is gonna sound weird to say it unless you've recently watched the movie, but trench coat Raphael is my favorite Ninja Turtle toy that I had. He's just got this like big ass trench coat.
Casey Jones calls him Bogey, and I'm like, yeah. A lot of kids born in 1984 understand that Bogey.
So you're talking about voices. He sounded like LL Cool J. We noticed early on in this movie the voice of Donatello, none other than Corey Feldman.
Corey Feldman.
Of 80s Corey's fame. Do you know how much Corey Feldman made on this movie? $1,500.
Oh, no.
Whoa.
So I guess he's like the one guy. We were talking about how like everyone else, like, oh, we want Marissa Tomei for April. They're like, you can't afford it. They're like, we want Johnny Depp for Casey Jones, which they did. Can't afford him. So I guess the other guy. Corey Feldman's the only one they duped into being like, oh no, it's just a small independent thing. Like we'll just. So he's the only one that took the bait, I guess. Took that little paycheck.
Cold as ice.
Joe, I don't know if you realize this, but the voice of Splinter, Kevin Clash.
Oh yeah, Elmo.
What? There's no way.
That's right, Elmo.
Awesome. The Elmo. I mean, they reaching in them Jim Henson bags like
He was Elmo for 20 years. Yeah.
Wow.
It's that guy.
And this
is
dude, like,
I mean, it's
this whole thing was like you're a legit voice actor and you're pre Big Bad Beetleborgs and all of the foot soldiers. So it's like y'all ever watch that Big Bad Beetleborgs? Used to come on Fox. They had the same costume and everything. Google it. You'll know.
I think I saw where they borrowed a bunch of these costumes for that show.
Oh yeah,
because they're like not in a museum. They like resold them. I want to go back to something that Joe said, and I was watching this. So about the Foot Clan and the Foot Soldiers. So we talked about the Turtles, like the effects look cool. You know what else is cool was the Foot Clan uniforms. They kind of look like bugs. But I remember even as a kid, you see the lair and you see their costumes. I'm like, I don't know, man. I could kind of get down with this. Yeah. Play video games all day, cut up, eat pizza, drink Diet Pepsis.
Be a ninja, steal stuff.
Yeah.
It shows they knew their audience. Every young boy was like, well, I totally understand why these kids are joining the Foot. You know?
Yeah.
It almost made you want to go and join a gang.
Their lair is unbelievable. Like people are playing ping pong, they're skateboarding. It's like, you want to smoke some cigarettes?
In a gang, I'm down. I'm actually kind of down. I mean, I have a good household. My parents treat me nice. Things are great, but I can't play video games all day.
Exactly. Like, even if your home life was great, you'd be like, I still want to hang out there.
Right.
Oh, spaghetti again, Mom. I'm joining the Foot Clan.
That's kind of the idea.
I'll be back at Christmas.
It's like what you were saying about Danny earlier, where I was like, I understand exactly why he's got involved.
I think it's maybe that where I'd be curious to interview, 6-year-old Nick or whenever this came out, and see, because now I'm with the dad. I'm like, dude, come on, you got a nice place. Like, you're the little shithead. Just go to school, do your stuff. Look out! I would like drive him down Skid Row. Well, it's not in LA, obviously. I'd take him somewhere and be like, "Hey, Danny, this is what you, man. If you keep up this track, you'll be living under this bridge with Stinky Pete and the guys."
So the themes of the movie that come out in terms of the story, it's wild that they bothered, but I'm glad they did because it makes the movie, I think, really last. It's about dads, basically. So you have like Splinter is the father of the teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's the other thing that this movie makes sure it reminds you all the time, that the Turtles are not supposed to be adults. They're supposed to be teenagers. April has this like backstory with her dad, because where she lives is in an apartment above this antique shop. It used to be her dad's, who's passed away, and then she makes this comment like, I don't know, it's stupid to keep all this stuff here just for a dad that passed away. And the Turtles are like, that's not stupid at all. We understand. And then Danny's dad gets a huge role in it. And there's this he gets this moment at the end where Danny has to reunite with dad. Like, they make sure that they stay on target thematically, even though it's a movie about talking turtles doing ninja martial arts. They have this heart at the core of the movie that is just about understand and appreciate family, and more than specifically the family, dads. And as a boy, I didn't think about that at all. It was probably the message is getting in there, but it was only now watching it as an adult where I was like, oh wow, like screenwriters really went for this.
Yeah, and you got the scene of Splinter talking to Danny too. I don't know if you just said that, but you got this overall like mentor aspect to this movie, which it's not like super subtle, but it is like, if you're a kid watching this, you don't realize it, but it's there. It's definitely there. That's a good point. And
I just loved that. I love that there's like a message in this movie. People were like, oh, isn't it just a stupid movie about punching and kicking? And go, no, they were trying to talk to young men, to young people, and make them appreciate family and dads, and you were supposed to be convinced not to want to join the Foot Clan.
Right.
Although I was very convinced.
Hey, look, don't mind me and Joe. We're just going to go try it out. We're doing the 90-day trial. If we don't like it, we'll be back.
Come on right back.
You know what I saw that really, really brought me back was the Splinter flashback. When they show him in his cage with his master, I was like, that scene and the opening scene with Raphael, when we're watching like the origin, was, I'm just going to put this out there. It's one of my favorite montage flashbacks in any film that I've ever seen. And I think it's because I have such nostalgia for it and the effects on it. Like, I was joking with these guys, we're watching, and I was like, before he even gets the ooze or anything, this little rat's in his cage doing karate along with his master. It's like, that's just the world we're in, and no one goes like,
it's just a smart.
No way. Like, yeah, you just believe it. Like, yeah, that sounds like something a rat would do. That hasn't even gotten smarter yet. But that montage to me, I just love it.
They broke up their exposition into like several flashbacks that happen over time, which is great because there's no like 5-7 minute long sequence where you get bored. So they split it up, and that's one of the later ones. But you bring up an interesting thing, because as a kid, I didn't think about it, but now I'm watching it, I'm going, so do they have superpowers? Like, I understand that the ooze got them and they grew to be huge and talking, but they also managed to like summon each other and talk across distances, and they meditate, and Splinter appears in the fire and is talking to them.
X-Men shit. X-Men / Last Jedi shit. Like, what the fuck is this?
Star Wars is what it is. Yeah. Shredder is absolutely just Darth Vader. The way he talks,
100%.
His mask, and if you so the creators, the original comic book writers, literally referred to Splinter as a Yoda type. Like, they did not even bother. They're like, look, it works. What the heck? Why not?
Yeah.
Speaking of borrowing from other stuff, Splinter, his name, Joe, you may not realize, is actually a play on a character from Daredevil, Stick.
Oh, that makes sense.
Splinter is a play on Stick.
Yeah, these guys were huge Jack Kirby fans who did Daredevil and a bunch of other Marvel comics.
The foot is
man.
Yeah.
The hand.
The hand, yeah. Oh, wow.
They basically took all their favorite stuff and stuffed it into a thing they thought was dumb called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, oh, Star Wars, yeah. They just borrowed from all this different
Casey Jones
stuff.
is like the Punisher. Like, he's holy shit. Wow.
They just put it all into a bag and this ridiculous package, and then everybody bought it. They were like,
I'm mad at it. I mean, it's the reason why I love this and I love Marvel. Like, it makes sense now. It all correlates. It makes sense. And going back to what Nick said, why in that montage? Why specifically did Shredder slice off his ear?
It's like he missed or something.
I think he missed. I think either he dodged it or missed it.
Either that or he was going for it. He was that specific. Like, I'm going to cut off this rat's ear.
Take that, rat.
Take that, rat.
I'm going to say Splinter.
That's all.
I'm like,
all right, so can we talk about Shredder? And so this is something I don't think I realized as a kid. But when you're looking at, I was watching Shredder, and like, there's no clear want. All we know that he wants to do is kill the Ninja Turtles. Like he has all these guys doing these very petty crimes. He's like the most petty supervillain ever. It's like stealing used TVs and like electronics and all this like bullshit, really. But his real purpose is not to like rule the world. It's to destroy the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't, and I was kind of like, well, that's kind of dumb. And I'm like, wait, is that scarier?
Among New York.
Yeah. Is it scary that he only wants to do the one thing? Just destroy our heroes?
Well, in this movie, they make him like he's the leader of the gang where he's just, I guess, money. Like, I guess he's making money off of all their theft. But he doesn't have an end game until he finds out that the turtles are in his way. And you even get this other character. You get the character of the Master Toshu or whatever his name is, but where he's like asking Shredder, why do you care about the turtles? And Shredder says, I've got this feeling like there's something from long ago, and I'm like, again, Star Wars. It's like he's got the Force, and he goes, there's something I have not sensed since, and it's like,
it's cut off that rat's ear. That's that rat's ear that was weird since then.
There's the exact same moment in A New Hope where Darth Vader's like, something I have not sensed a disturbance,
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't realize that they were magical.
So I think my idea of, so you're talking about after you saw this, you went and like tried to fight up your brothers and stuff. I'm sure everyone did. As kids, you see us, that's what you do. 100%. Yeah. I remember thinking like, this is something you learn how to do if you're a ninja. So guess what? Me and my brother did. We started doing karate, where you don't learn magic, and it kind of sucks, personally. Yeah. not for me.
So you literally went to you started.
Yeah, we started karate class for 2 days. We did 2 classes. And not as advertised. I'm like, we're the foot soldiers. Where's the magic?
I did the exact same thing. I am not lying. I joined a karate class. I was like, this is the Dan Cook of martial arts. This is whack. This sucks. I am not having fun. I am not going to be a badass doing karate. And that's why I was like, these little kids are not learning ninjutsu. That shit is so hard.
I feel like now, Joe, if we were like friends as kids right now, let's say take us back to we're 6, we'd be like, you know what? Let's pull up YouTube. Let's learn how to break some planks and jump off stuff. And then that's how we're going to be ninjas. Let's find some, put on disguise and find some ninja stars and do that.
I still have that to this day. I still have ninja stars running around the house. I wish I knew how to use them. I wish I did. I have them as an intimidation. I don't know how to use that shit.
Joe's cat would be Shredder if he ever fell into the ooze. Or Splinter. If you ever fell in the ooze, your cat's going to lead an army of
wielding lightsabers.
Yeah.
So this movie's dialogue is wild, and it's for a reason. It's because, again, if you haven't seen this movie and you're too young and you don't remember that you care about the Ninja Turtles, they have to talk like that in this movie because that's how they talk in the cartoon. And so it was like, you got to satisfy all those ticket buyers, all those Nick Holmeses that are showing up. So, but the screenwriters knew that it was a ridiculous way to talk, so they comment on it. It's real subtle, but it's like from the very beginning when you first see the turtles, they're all excited and they're just shouting out these stupid 80s exclamations that nobody ever really said. But they're talking about it. And they turn to Donatello and they're just like, nah, that's not a good one. Try again. That's where that whole he goes like Chevy Nova, he's trying to excellent. And they do that the whole time. Later on, when Casey Jones and Donatello are back and forth giving each other those insane insults that, again, nobody ever said in real life while they're fixing the truck. they give a reason why. They make it a game, like an improv game, where they're going through the alphabet. With each new letter, you have to come up with a new insult that begins with that letter. So they're like explaining why they talk in the stupid way that nobody else does.
Yeah.
All throughout the movie, just a real subtle way. And I was like, I never noticed that either when I was a kid, but it's good. They like justify the world's most ridiculous dialogue.
Was like because adults have to get through the movie too.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, man. Like we gonna have all these parents going to, like bringing these kids to adult, and they're gonna sit through the movie and go, really? I gotta sit through an hour and a half of this. So,
do you guys have any favorite or memorable lines?
I mean, it's mostly the Ninja Turtle stuff. I always remember the Bossa Nova, Chevy Nova.
Bam!
Yeah, you knew.
And say forgiveness is divine, but no.
Oh, what's my favorite line? Oh, that's gonna take me a second to think. There's so many good ones.
And I mean, how Casey Jones just took the golf club and just knocked Toshi into like. Did he didn't have a driver? He had a putter and just knocked him in the Deep Space Nine, like Super Smash Brothers. I'm like, how did he do that?
All right, Casey Jones has to be the character you wish you to play in the movie, right?
Oh, 100%. Like, he was a guy that was so cool that you couldn't be. It was like, I'd rather be a turtle. I can be a turtle. I can't be Casey Jones. He's too cool. He's like
so many good lines.
He was the older kids.
He's the poor man's Adrian Brody, that guy. Elias Koteas?
Yeah. He's got a long TV career. Yeah.
You want to hear the everyone they considered for that role or wanted? I'll go through them quickly. Johnny Depp, Keanu Reeves, Christian Slater. Here's two of my personal favorites: Lou Diamond Phillips, Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland, River Phoenix.
I could see Kiefer Sutherland doing it. I could see that.
I could see Christian Slater doing it.
I was about to say I could see Christian.
No love for Lou Diamond Phillips on that one.
I mean, yeah. You said all the other names, and I was like, all right, he got like third best.
Do I wonder if Lou Diamond Phillips is a little wholesome? Like I feel like he plays like nicer guys than Casey Jones.
No, I feel like didn't Lou Diamond Phillips do like softcore porn? Like after Liz LeBama years?
I'm pretty sure. After that,
I think he did. I could. Somebody fact check this, but I'm pretty sure.
That's all right. I'm not going to check that.
I need to check.
Coming up next week on Flashback, Lou Diamond Phillips special.
Joe, don't need that in my search history.
Make sure you're logged on to Joe's Wi-Fi before you look that up.
Exactly. Run to Millennium Falcon. You get a whole lot of that space.
I really actually dug the way that this movie was directed and shot, because they kind of handled it really nicely. There's a lot of low light stuff, so everything has to be wet so that it reflects the light. But it's like we're in the sewer, we're at night, like that one scene in the beginning where Raph fights Casey Jones. It's at night and so like that was really tricky to get to work on film. But I feel like they did a great job. It actually looks good. There's this one shot when Raphael. It's when all of them have discovered that Splinter has gone missing. They were busy. They were out having pizza with April. And while they were gone, the Foot shows up and kidnaps Splinter. There's this shot of Raphael, and the camera's handheld, so it gets all intense. And it's going around him in a circle, and he just screams. There's no word. It's just this primal scream with his closed eyes and this and that. And it's like, at that moment, this movie's intense. It's not even for kids anymore. I'm not even feeling like I'm looking at a costume. You're just feeling the intense frustration, but it's the style of the way they shot it. They just decided, hey, let's go for it. So there's little things in this movie to appreciate that are beyond the fact that it's like a bunch of guys in crazy puppet outfits. Yeah,
it's a kid's movie, but it's like a notch away. So by the way, I did look this up earlier. Steve Barron was the director of this. He did another little movie called Coneheads.
That's right. That's a good flashback.
No, we should do that. Steve Barron is a big time music video director, and so I felt this movie teetered on being a not kids movie constantly. Like I don't think it would have taken much to push this over the edge and be like a PG-13 or higher movie. I think they could make like
if there was just a
Deadpool-style Ninja Turtles movie that would go, wow, that's good.
They had decided they wanted to do any little blood or anything.
Yeah.
Actually watch somebody get one of those swords or one of those sais stuck in them. You know?
I mean, do you guys know, have you guys ever read the comic book, like old school?
No.
It was very bloody. It was very rated R. It was very like over the top. So I think they kind of met halfway between the cartoon and all the marketing and stayed kind of true to what the comic book really originally had. Because Leonardo would like cut limbs off and like cut, like they didn't give a fuck. Like they killed people. It was like, oh, they're ninjas. That's what's happening.
So Joe, is the comic funny?
No.
The comic isn't funny. It's serious.
The comic book has funny elements to it. And then the show is like all humor. So I think this movie was like the merger of the both. And then 2 was like, all right, well, we're going to bank on the funny stuff more so than this. But this was dark. Like PG, like going in, I was like, oh, this is a little more graphic than I can usually see in the movies. I'm okay with that.
I don't know if it'd get a PG rating now, but
it would get PG-13 for sure.
I did see the first time they got pitched. It was Eastman and Laird, the guys who came up with it. The first time they got pitched for a movie, it was to have 4 comedians play the Turtles in the 80s. And the guys they wanted to play the Turtles, just try to picture this movie. Gallagher, Bobcat Goldthwait, Billy Crystal, and Sam Kinison.
Wow.
Oh my God! I want
to imagine that.
I want to see that movie now.
Yeah,
I want to see that movie now.
Sam Kinison as a turtle. By the way, that movie would be hard just because of his mouth.
Who would Bobcat Goldthwait play? He'd be Mikey, probably. I don't know.
Oh, 100% he'd be Mikey. I don't know. Yeah, you're right, though. I don't know. I figured they'd throw Eddie Murphy in there at least. I mean,
I don't know when in it yet. You would think so.
Or Shredder.
Actually, what?
Oh, I was going to say, have you guys seen any of the Michael Bay Ninja Turtle movies?
No.
Dude, that's a on an airplane choice. That's not I can't recommend that.
No.
Yeah, I sludged through like the first remake of it, and like I don't know what everyone, I tried not to be the guy that's like, oh, things are better, this was better, but it's just a different brand, a different style. I think kids like it. They've made multiple of them, but I don't know. Maybe it's because like people assume that these comic book movies aren't going to age. Like eventually you grow up and you watch other movies, but instead of us evolving past comic book movies, the comic book movies for the most part aged with us. So that's where we got like the Dark Knight. We've gotten like even Avengers, like for kids, but it's also very much for people in our generation and all generations.
Yeah,
they do a good job of doing that. And like this, I even remember at the time I felt like, because we were talking about like it's PG, but now it might be PG-13. I remember thinking like, ooh, I don't know. This seems like, am I allowed to watch this? You see like the kitchen scene with Casey Jones and April, and you're like, oh my God, he's rubbing her shoulders. Uh-oh.
But like as a kid, I was like, oh, this is in there. Like that's a romance. And I was just like, oh, I can see it. I can see that tension. And like, I like that they built it up that way. And even that as a romance is unconventional. Mm-hmm. Right up until the very end. You're like, is this working out? Are these people actually attracted to each other? But it feels so much more like a real romance than most movie romances do.
Yeah.
It's like, rom-com almost, but in a realistic way. Casey is being this blubbering idiot, can't figure out how to talk to a woman. He keeps trying to come up, well, what kind of nickname would you want? Toots, baby, he just keeps going on and on and on.
Oh, princess.
But I still think that moment with the swing breaks I think that moment with the spring breaks actually happened. I
do too. That was a good reaction if it was too. There was SNL did last week a sketch that was like Ninja Turtles grown up. I don't know if you guys saw that, but they're like picking up their kids from school and like they're sitting sitting around. They're like, Hey, did you hear Shredder died? Oh, really?
Oh,
Should we go to the funeral? Nah, probably not. Yeah,
it was sort of funny, but it was mostly just a horrible bummer.
It's a little.
They just portrayed being middle-aged as just the saddest thing.
But you know what? I would. So I agree. I like that's not a movie I would watch, but I thought it was a funny joke. Like, what if they grew up? You know what I would watch though? Like the Logan version of Ninja Turtles. Like, give me this style Ninja Turtles in like a Logan setting where they're like, now they're Splinter. Probably one or two of them are dead. You know, who's dead? Probably Raph is dead.
Yeah, he did some dumb
one of them,
shit.
or Leonardo maybe dies, and they got to come back and band together.
Raph's the only one left, and the movie's called Raphael.
Yeah. Hey, Photoshop that movie poster, and we'll pitch it. And
I'm gonna do it tonight. It'll be ready for the podcast.
Yeah. We can't end. I know we're getting close. We can't end without asking. What turtle would you be, Joe?
Donatello. Hands down.
Yeah.
He is the leader without being a leader. He's the smartest turtle, and he's got a long stick. He's fighting with a long stick. I always like admired that because that's all I had to play with in the backyard. And I was like, man, I got this stick. It's really big. I don't got swords or nothing, but I can still mess you up. I can still do a combo. He's got a long stick and he's got brains and he can build robots. He can, like in the comics, he would, or I guess in the show, he will build robots. He would build all these like gadgets. And I was like, why isn't he the leader? Because he didn't want to be.
It is funny. Like, he doesn't cause any of the problems. Like, Michelangelo is busy, like, ordering pizza on the phone while Splinter's trying to have a serious conversation. Raphael's so angry in this movie that he causes lots of problems. But it's like, Donatello doesn't cause any problems. And he never complains. He doesn't get all emotional or fight with any of the other turtles. He's always there with his bow staff, ready to kick some butt or fix something.
Yeah. Joe, I will say you do look good in purple. And also, we know we all did this, which was use the Christmas wrapping paper tube and use it as the Donatello.
100%.
At some point.
100%. That was it.
It's good for like one hit.
I was like, don't take that off. I got this.
Clay, what about you?
What would I be? I mean, like, my first instinct is that I'm Michelangelo, but the fact is, I'm not nearly that fun at parties. I'd be the guy who wished he was Michelangelo and was trying to tell jokes and nobody else is laughing. I'm definitely that dude. Like, I don't think I don't think I'm working two swords. I don't think that I'm that dude. I think I'm probably I'm a chucker. A fellow chucker. Making jokes literally the whole time.
See, I was watching and I was thinking, like, it's like, man, I'm like the worst attribute of probably Raphael, Michelangelo, Leonardo. I'm like, take all their worst traits and put them in one turtle. That's me.
Depends on what time of day you poke Nick.
Yeah, exactly. That's my split personality syndrome.
I loved this. I'm so glad that we decided to watch this one. I know that it was mostly us reminiscing about the old days, but I loved it. Does anybody have final thoughts on on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1990?
Joe?
Make a rated R version of it.
Yeah.
Make a rated R version of that, G.I. Joe, Transformers, because we're all grown now. We want to see that shit.
Yeah.
It's like, these kids didn't grow up with this. We did. So we're all grown now. Why not make rated R versions of the three?
Let's see the Logan version of Raph.
Right. I want to
give me Batman Begins.
Yes.
With the turtles.
Like, looking at you, Christopher Nolan. Or like a Tarantino Turtles I could get behind.
I'd be. Yeah. That's Sam Jackson. Splinter or some
Sam Jackson would. Yeah, he'd have to do voice like Raphael.
Oh yeah.
Get that incredible blood spurt. That
side eye where he turns around. He holds up the side.
Yeah, I could get down with that. It's there, man. Like, get those suits back. Call that show that Joe used to watch.
Yeah.
Clay, did you have any final thoughts?
Everything.
I will say that I think probably in the next few weeks we'll probably do Turtles 2. So if you enjoyed this one, check back in. Joe, we'll bring you back and we'll do Secret of the Ooze because we have a lot to say about that one too. Turtles in Time we might skip, but Turtles 2, man.
And if you're enjoying this and you like what we do here, in 2 days' time, we're gonna release a new episode. This one is for Top Gun. It's gonna be a different video. We filmed this before we started doing it remotely, so look for that coming Thursday. You can find us on YouTube and on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and iTunes, and Handlebar TV. And look, Joe, thank you so much for joining us once again.
Guys, this is not having me. Thank you for having me back.
It's a lot lighter than Get Out.
It's a lot more fun.
I wasn't afraid of this one. This one didn't give me nightmares for 3 days straight.
However, you should all go back and
me and my white girlfriend wondering if her family is plotting to kill me. This is a little lighter than that. I can sleep well tonight.
Well, we love you and we thank you. Thanks again, Nick. And cowabunga.
Hey, cowabunga, dudes.
Hey, cowabunga.
Later.